Bismillah, walhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalam ala rasulillah. Brothers, today in the dars I would like to comment about the Sharia row that has been taking place these days. Okay, I found that this is a very important topic to discuss, and maybe there are many benefits to be learned from this controversy that has been going on. And there are few issues need to be clarified here. So I took this opportunity to speak about these issues, and may Allah Jalla wa Ala give us guidance. First of all, before I speak about the issue of Sharia in Britain, there are some comments and some observations about this row and the reactions by media, politicians, by so many people on the comments given by William Rowan, who commented about Sharia in Britain, the Archbishop. First of all, you have seen the reaction. Today is a Tuesday. His comments were given last week, the beginning of last week, and just 1 week after his comment is still in every newspaper. You see that people are talking about him. The newspaper, sometimes in their front pages, they are talking about his comments, and even today they ask him to apologize, and so on and so forth. And really here, this highlights some important issues regarding the so-called Western values. So I would like to comment first of all about some of the Western values. And this has really uncovered the reality of so many Western values. First of all, always they accuse Muslims of being intolerant towards many other values. Is that true or not? Always, when we speak about, as Muslims, when we speak about something, when we speak about homosexuality, when we speak about some Western values, they say Muslims, they don't know anything about tolerance, they are intolerant towards others, etc., etc. Can you tell me, after this controversy and after this reaction and these comments by so many commentators, by so many editors, by so many politicians about the statements of the Archbishop, what does that mean? What is that considered to be? Why don't they tolerate what he said? Where is tolerance? Where is this Western values that always they accuse us of not having them and lacking these important values? Why don't they tolerate what he said? So this is one thing. Why don't they tolerate the issue of Sharia? We are not asking for chopping the hands or the heads of the infidels, as they say. We are not asking for this. We are asking for few amendments to be embedded into the British law. So why don't they be tolerant towards these amendments? And still we are suggesting that. Where is tolerance towards these suggestions? Okay, so this is one thing. And here, when they talk about tolerance, either they talk about tolerance that serve them, that serve the West, or they are talking about double standards. Yes, for us, you have to tolerate whatever you don't like. But for them, the West in general, no, it is not a must for them to tolerate. And this is not anymore a value to be considered or to be adopted. So this is clearly a double standard measure that they are always using. This is one thing. So this is the first point about tolerance. The other thing, they always talk about freedom of speech. And when Muslims become angry, when the Prophet ﷺ is insulted or when some of our values being insulted or criticized, then they accuse us of having no tolerance and of having no freedom of speech. We don't have this freedom of speech. So let me ask them, this guy, he had his views, and he declared his views. This is what he believed. So why don't you allow him to speak? You always talk about freedom of speech, let people speak. This is a value, this is an absolute value. What is it now? It is true that some Muslims, when they react, like what we have seen of the reaction of some Muslims when the Prophet ﷺ was insulted, yes, we agree that those reactions by some Muslims are not acceptable reactions in general, some of those reactions, but the principle is there, that Muslim reacted on something that they don't like, that they see that it is against their values. And here, media, politicians, everyone, if you see and if you read so many of the comments given by so many commentators and by the people about the comments of the Archbishop or the comments of Dr. Sohaib about Sharia in the UK, you will see that it is worse. So this is another point to be discussed here and to be mentioned here, is that when we reject something and when we do not accept to tolerate something that we believe that it is a matter of insult for our values, we are accused of having no tolerance, we are accused of having no freedom of speech, not respecting freedom of speech. So are they respecting freedom of speech? Yes, sometimes we as Muslims scream and shout. It is a natural thing that we do. This is our culture. When we refuse something, we start shouting and screaming. This is the way many Muslims were brought up. But the way they did it in response to the comments given by the Archbishop or given by Dr. Sohaib Hassan or given by other people with regards to Sharia, the way they reacted is worse than screaming and shouting. And in many cases, the violence taking place by some Muslims against some of the symbols that they don't like, that violence maybe is less harmful than the violence taken by media against some symbols in the UK or in the West in general. And you have seen that in many cases when the media started to slaughter someone and to start to speak negatively about him in the media, in newspapers, in the TV, radio, etc., the person feels that he is being targeted and immediately he resigns and immediately he thinks of just keeping away from people. This is worse than violence. Why do we consider some violent act carried out by angry Muslims when they try to protest against some of the recent cartoons in Denmark? We consider that as a barbaric reaction, and we don't consider the ongoing onslaught against these comments, we don't consider this as a barbaric reaction. We are considering it as a civilized reaction. No, everyone has his own way of expressing his anger. Maybe we disagree with some Muslims on how they react, but that does not justify the reaction carried out by so many Western people against things that they don't like. So this is something else that we need to mention.